I got hit really very, very hard. I had caught a glimpse of what had just thrown me that far, and it was a great white shark. And I knew that I was in for it. It was the end of summer, and the water's a little bit warmer, but a little bit warmer in Northern California means 65 degrees, probably at the top. And so you're wearing a full wetsuit every time you go surfing. But I started surfing at 10:20 or 10:30 a.m., so I'd only been out there a little while. I had just caught one, and I was paddling back out, and another wave came to me, actually. But my friend Zane was in position for it. He caught it. I sat up on my board and turned it towards the beach to watch him surf in. Within a couple seconds of me sitting up, I got hit really very, very hard by a giant animal, and it threw me probably 15 feet across the surface of the water. I had caught a glimpse of what had just thrown me that far, and it was a great white shark. He took me into his mouth, my whole torso, from my shoulder blade down to my butt, and sandwiched my surfboard and my body together, lifted me out of the water and started shaking me. A 16-foot long shark, great white shark, is 8 feet deep and 6 feet wide. So if you can imagine, it's pretty much the size of a Suburban. Everything is so fast that you don't really have time to think. There's only reactions, and your body automatically goes into the fight or flight mode, and I wasn't able to get away, so I was fighting. He had me in his mouth, and he was shaking me from my right side, and I remember the only thing that I could do was reach around with my left fist and hit him over and over and over again. I suppose I was hitting him on the top of the head or on the side of the head. I don't remember ever seeing his eye. Because, everybody says, oh, if you get attacked by a shark, go for the eye. It's not that easy. It doesn't work like that. You're not able to pinpoint a spot and try to go for it. This thing is 3,000 pounds, and it's got 5,000 teeth, and they're in you and serrating your flesh and throwing you like a rag doll. If I had twisted the wrong way in the shark's mouth, it would have punctured my aorta because its teeth were down on both sides of my spine. I didn't feel pain. Your body shuts off that mechanism of pain. It breached, and I was in its mouth. And I think at that point, it shook me a couple times while its body was out of the water, and then landed with me in its mouth and took me underwater for a minute. And this is all happening for me so fast. All I'm focusing on is trying to hit this thing and trying to get it off of me, because I know that I'm probably gonna die. I'm hitting this shark over and over, probably 4 or 5 times. I don't know exactly how many times I hit it, but I know that it released me for whatever reason, and at that point I was treading water. There were dolphins leaping over my head and literally tail slapping the water 2 inches from my head. There was a pod of them. There was probably 20 dolphins. They were jumping over my head, doing flips, tail slapping the water literally inches away from my head, trying to keep this shark away from me. The shark came and he swallowed my right leg. And he didn't just swallow a little bit of my leg. He didn't get my ankle or up to my knee. He swallowed my entire leg all the way up to my groin. The only thing that I could think to do was kick it, because for some reason I had a moment of clarity and I didn't want to put my left foot on the shark's mouth and try to pull my right leg out of his mouth, because I feared it would be like a chicken drumstick that you eat, you know, it would just pull the meat right off. And a couple kicks, and he let go of me. And that's when I started swimming towards the only person that was left out there, Joe Jansen. The entire ocean around me was completely blood red. I looked at Joe, and he was so pale, and he was paddling slowly kind of across where I was swimming towards him, like kind of towards the beach, but not directly at the beach, so I knew he wasn't trying to get away from me. And I was swimming towards him, screaming, blood-curdling screams, I'm sure. And he's waiting for me, and he's yelling at me the whole time, grab your board. And he must have said that 10 times, because I swam all the way up to him, and I grabbed onto his legs. I was so terrified that I literally grabbed him, and I tried to pull myself onto him like he was gonna tow me and bring me to the beach. But he continued to say, grab your board, grab your board, grab your board. And I looked behind me, and by some miracle, my board was still attached to me by my leg leash. I don't know how it didn't get severed when my leg was down the shark's mouth, because that's the same leg that I tie the leash to. I grabbed hold of my leash and I reeled my board in, which was only about 6 feet away from me, and I put it underneath myself. Joe was to my left, and I looked at him and I was bewildered, and we were paddling, and he said, Todd, there's a wave coming, we need to catch this wave. I managed to paddle into a wave before it broke, catch it, and I rode in right next to Joe on our bellies. My friends pulled me up out of the water onto the beach by my arms. They knew it was real bad because of the tremendous amount of blood and the huge gaping hole that was my whole back. They could see my lungs inflating and deflating. But at the same time, my arms are in front of me like this, and I'm watching blood literally being pumped out of my wetsuit sleeves. It was the biggest weight off my shoulders I have ever had. It was the hugest feeling of relief. What that took was 500 stitches on the inside and 200 staples to close it up completely, and that's about 60 inches of bite, including all the puncture wounds and my leg, and it was tremendous. I think that the shark would have eaten me if the dolphins hadn't distracted or hurt him. Mentally, I can't go out as far as I used to, or be the farthest one out, or wait for the best wave on the outside. I'm hoping that's gonna get better. But as for right now, I try to surf the inside as much as I can, obviously.